So, if you're wondering why tensions in Europe are spiking so high right now of all times, then look no further than Ukraine. Over the past couple of years, one of Ukraine's most effective means of fighting Russia has been attacking Russian energy infrastructure with drones. And while none of these strikes really represent a knockout shot in and of themselves, it's really more the aggregate of these strikes over years against critical infrastructure for Russia that is very hard for them to replace, especially with international sanction. And so you can see the oil prices here. I believe this is Moscow. I might be wrong, but it's in Russia at least. And it's taken from just the past few days, and it shows the oil prices for civilians starting to skyrocket. You see, up to this point, Russia has been able to really insulate the civilian population from the effects of the war. However, one of the best ways that you can get a civilian populace to feel economic effects is by impacting their wallets, and that's done through oil prices. Well, after a couple years of the sustained campaign by Ukraine, Russia is losing the ability to insulate its civilian populace from this problem. In fact, it's starting to become such a problem that 1 in 50 gas stations in Russia has stopped selling gasoline. And it's not that Russia doesn't have gas, it's that they can't refine that into gasoline. And that's largely due to the refineries themselves being struck by drones. Now, they've really been able to kind of weather this storm to this point because they've been selling the unrefined crude oil to European customers, to India, to China, and to other customers around the world. However, that situation is starting to be combated by President Trump, who is really starting to lean into Europe and India to try to get them to stop buying Russian oil. So that final lifeline that Russia has had to really prop up their economy and fuel the war is starting to close drastically. So with Russia losing that economic lifeline, that time horizon for them to be able to sustain that war is shrinking drastically. And they have not produced any results on the ground in Ukraine over the past couple years, and that's a big problem. And so in order to save face, they have to look strong in the face of adversity, and that is where these air incursions against NATO come in. For Russia, they see that if they can stand up to NATO and look strong in the face of this situation, then they can have an off-ramp. They can recover some level of face and say, hey, NATO declared war on us, but we were able to scare them into submission. And yeah, we got what we could out of Ukraine, but at least we kept our country. Or better yet, they feel that they can still maintain their actual long-term war objectives, and that is to isolate Ukraine and ultimately annex the entire country. But that only can happen right now if they can scare NATO into submission, or at least scare NATO out to the sideline. And that's why everything is happening right now.